All right. This is If My People Bible Reading Part 46, Book of Genesis. We're picking up the pace a little bit. A lot of historical facts. And there's some still good bit of information that's being put in that you need to be aware of that applies to the day. That's one of the main reasons we put this on YouTube is to apply the Bible study today. People should be reading this Bible from beginning to end, just like a book. And I used to have dozens, hundreds of, not as much as my brother had, but Bibles that I referenced. And they would cross reference and they would have Ibids and they would have all kinds of. It forced you to look at the Bible in parts and pieces, and you never looked at it as a whole. It was just always, well, this verse here and that verse there, and by the way, it's cross-referenced to 14 other sources, and then you find out, well, maybe 10 of them, but those other four don't really cross over, have nothing to do with it. If you just read the paragraphs and the pages and pages before the comment that you just read, and then the pages and pages of what is said afterwards. That's how you understand the Bible. You don't pull it apart piece by piece. It was never meant to be that way, but that's the way it's done in the Bibles that are created and on the shelf today. And then somebody just pays all kinds of money for you to write a commentary Bible. Ours nobody wants to do because we tell the truth as it is, and you find that book companies with the Christian names they have for them have nothing to do with Christianity. Not one thing has to do with it. It's just amazing. So we are on Genesis 25. Let me clear my voice. And we have Abraham taking another wife. His beloved wife died, and he picked up another one, uh, Keturah. And she bore him Zimran, Jochgan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua. Now, some of these names sound familiar. That's because historically they're areas north and east of Jerusalem, and they are also names of towns and villages and their peoples. Um, these people will come back biting Israel in the rear end on this one. We just watch what happens as a result of this. Rebecca, the problems that she's going to have, that she drug her family, she drug her family into this, and their behaviors and her faith and what her father and what her mother and so forth, all those, she brought into her DNA system, her behavior. And this is going to come out of this. Also, these people were living in the land, the east area. And today, where is most of the problems of Israel today? East, north. Okay? It's unfortunate. But it's right here. It's right here in Genesis 25. That's why Genesis is such a important reading for us, and we take our time with it. Out of this, we'll go to verse 13 here. These are the names of the sons of Ishmael, listed in the order of their birth. Nebaioth, the firstborn of Ishmael, then Kedar, Adbeel, Mibsam, Misha, Duma, Massa, Hadad, Tima, Jetur, Nephish, and Kedemah. 12 tribes. We sure don't hear that in institutional churches today or in the Orthodox Judaism, do you? Are they blessed? Yeah. In the last 130 years, ever since Standard Oil, that's where how it all started. Standard Oil came into that area, and also Arabia, and they exploited them, and everybody made money. That's why in Dubai and all these um, Arabian areas, with from all the way from Persia, Iran, all the way up north into Turkey and even into Russian area. The oil is just everywhere, and many of the tribes I just mentioned here, they don't work for a living. That's why this lifestyle is starting to infect the United States. Why should people work? We just sit around, and the one tenth of 1% of the world's population of super rich people will simply pay for everything, and then we can go hire labor from other countries to come in and do the work for us. That's the way it's done in the Middle East now. That's the way it's done. And these people all walk around in their fancy long robes and living out in the sand. And that's what you're looking at right here in chapter 25. There it is. It started there, and look where it is today. And that kind of lifestyle is those people don't do anything. They just sit around because of the oil that's underneath them in all the countries that exploit that oil and keep the world making the money go around with the money. So here we see the other 12 tribes, not the promised tribes, not the promised, not Israel, not the 12 tribes. These other ones. Anyway, Isaac was 40 when he married Rebekah, daughter of Bethuel of the Aramean, key word, from Padan Aram, and sister of Laban the Aramean, bunch of Arabians. And how's that going today? Not so well. And she became pregnant, and at verse 22, the babies jostled with each other with her, and she said, "Why is this happening to me?" So she went to inquire of Yahweh. And Yahweh said to her, "There are two nations in your womb, two peoples from within you will be separated. One people will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger." Now, comment, do you recall that Yahweh told Abraham to leave the peoples in the land of Iraq and not to be part of them? Remember that? Yeah, remember that. Here we go. So verse 24, when the time came for her to give birth, there were twins in her womb. The first to come out was red, and his whole body was like a hairy garment. So they named him Esau. There's the hairy garment we talked about right in the very beginning of Genesis. Did that come out of Adam and Eve? No. But Cain made sure that happened through his bloodline. He had the breath of life in him from Adam through the birth. So Adam and Eve came from Adam. So no matter what, if this particular situation, hairy people were created by Yahweh, just as he created all the creatures and the beasts out there. Here is some of that DNA that's coming out. Just like in my family background, it goes way back a little bit, there's red-haired people. You ever heard that red-haired stepchild song? You know, they say, "Oh, that's a red-haired chip." You're like, where'd that child come from? Well, it's retained in our DNA, and it comes out on occasion. So there's none in my hair, but there was some in my mother. There was some in my great-grandmother, but not in my grandmother. Kind of let you know, using the red hair example of the hairy person here. So there's, and by the way, this hairy people, can they come to Yeshua just like anybody else can and come to the Father through Yeshua? Through hearing and obeying the word? And yeah, it's got nothing to do with it. The seed. All creation and life came through. And you notice the word says, through Eve. Didn't say Adam. Eve. So the second Adam, all life and creation can be saved. The second Adam. Okay. Jacob wants the birthright. So he knows what's the most important thing. What you got or what you don't have. He knows. He wants the birthright. But Jacob said, "Swear to me first." So he swore an oath to him, selling back his birthright to Yaakov, Jacob. So Esau, um, who lived in the open country. There's a lot of stories that go with Esau and why he was so famished and so forth. That's folklore, and we're not going to mention this Bible study. That's just it's very interesting. It would make a great movie, but the fact is, the whole thing was about birthright here. Chapter 26. Now, there was a famine in the land, which happens on many, many occasions and still does today. Then, besides the earlier famine of the Abraham's time had, and Isaac went to Abimelech, the king of the Philistines in Gerar. Yahweh appeared to Isaac and said, "Do not go to Egypt. Live in the land where I tell you to live. Give all these lands and will confirm the oath that I swore to your father Abraham. I will make your descendants as numerous as stars in the sky and give them all these lands, and through your offspring all nations on earth will be blessed." That was the Abrahamic promise. Abrahamic promises right there, and that's very, very important as we go through this Bible. Is that promise is part of the Melchizedek priestlyhood and the promise that's made that will never go away. That's a promise made in blood because Yahweh knew that it was going to be broken, and so the blood that was going to be spilt was not going to be animals and doves and critters split in half that the Yeshua walks in between. It's going to be Yeshua's blood that's going to be spilled. Now we're in verse 5, and basically because Abraham obeyed me and kept my requirements, my commands, my decrees, and my Torah. Torah is mentioned here. It's mentioned here. Did you read that? Did you hear it? My decrees and my Torah. This is before Moses. Okay. Kind of important. This proves that long before Mount Sinai, Mount of El Jabal, Mount of the Law of Moses, the law we're no longer under is Levitical law, which is and came 400 years later, 430 years later, during Exodus. I just knocked the fire out of 100,000 preachers that preach something exactly opposite that. There it is. It's right there. Torah comes before the written Torah. All this other stuff is covenants and promises made and promises kept and promises broken. That's kind of important because it will keep you from joining one of the 30,000 denominations who call themselves Christians. And it goes from one end of the spectrum to the other. Mormons is a classic example there. They call themselves Christians. Where 5,000 churches say, well, they're not Christians, and they're all arguing back and forth with each other. And most all of them say, well, we are under the law. So I don't know what they're arguing about, why they're so mad at each other. The Mormons, pretty good bankers, pretty good at money, pretty good with their families. I've known a couple of Mormons, a number of Mormons whose children killed themselves, called suicide because they were told who they're going to marry, told where they're going to live, told who they're going to study other, told who they're going to be given, like between graduation from high school till they're like their 20s, which uncle or aunt they're going to be trained under and what woman they're going to marry. Not even including that they don't believe Yeshua is the Son of God, Son of Yahweh, and they believe that Hasatan was equal to that of his brother Jesus. Are you kidding me? And they call themselves Christians. So, sorry, I don't call myself a Christian anymore because it's been stolen. If I say Christian, nobody knows what that means in foreign countries. It's all messed up. It's what you do, it's what you hear, it's what you obey. And if you use the word Yahweh, it pretty well slams the door on people because they know to shut up. Because number one, it scares them. And number two, they know who you are. That's why we call him Yeshua, salvation. We don't call him Yahushua, Yeshu, which is Greek for son of Zeus. We don't do that. All right. We're stop here, and I'll see you next time in 26:7.